Another thing that I've been working on is the LLVM Premerge system. Yeah, I mean, it's currently running through BuildKite. I mean, a lot of people here are probably familiar with it. Those Premerge checks that are usually broken a decent amount of the time that run on all of your PRs. So we've been working on some infrastructure changes, mostly to help with queue times and enable some other improvements. So right now we have this new beta system. We're hoping to launch it soon, as I'll talk about in a little bit. So right now, both the old system that runs through BuildKite and the new system that runs through GitHub Actions, so they're both running in parallel. So if you've opened up a PR recently, you've probably seen the BuildKite checks, and then below that you'll see the like GitHub Actions, LLVM Premerge checks, and then they'll have like a disclaimer like test only, ignore these results. So they're both running in parallel, mostly so we can test the stability of the new infrastructure. So the new system currently marks all jobs as passing so that if there's actually infrastructure failures, we don't end up spamming a bunch of people with emails on a system that's somewhat unstable. So with the new system, we're still sorting out a couple stability problems. There's a couple issues where GitHub sometimes stops sending jobs to us, so they just end up queuing instead of actually being executed. So we're hoping to launch it next couple weeks is what we're hoping, but I mean, yeah, almost definitely by the end of Q2, once we sort out those stability problems and get some like guarantees on funding and engineering resources internally so that we can make sure we're actually able to support this going into the future. So a couple of the features on this new rendition of the infrastructure that we think are particularly important. So the big one is auto scaling. So we can essentially just have more machines available and then within a fixed budget, like dedicate those machines to running at the peak times, which are usually like, I mean, right at the beginning of the day, like European and Pacific time, and then, yeah, I mean, also definitely most of the workday Pacific time. So that can significantly improve latency and just make more effective use of the resources. Because the current Premerge system, it just runs a bunch of machines all the time, and that's not a very effective use of resources. Like you only need them during certain times, so if we can reallocate things to where they're needed, we can be a lot more efficient with that. We have some metrics, which I will talk about on the next slide. And then the two of the bigger things also are more on the organizational side. So the plan, so there's like on-call rotation that's getting set up that will be able to provide support during working hours. We have some alerting and whatnot that I'll get to that should help with that. So I mean, if stuff starts breaking and queue times explode or whatnot, there should be someone else who's actually going to investigate that. And then also dedicated engineering staff for maintenance and improvements, which is something that the current Premerge system like had at one point, and then people wanted to move off a project, and it's been like mostly unstaffed for the past year or two, which has led to some issues. And yeah, I mean, it's been barely, I mean, only when things like start exploding or when people are actually working on it. So having dedicated maintenance procedures and everything will help keep things running smoothly into the future for that. So for the metrics, we have a Grafana dashboard. So I mean, there's a public version of it. So if you go to the LLVM Zorg repository under the Premerge directory, there's a link to a Grafana dashboard that will show you these metrics. It doesn't look the metrics don't look as good as this right now because there was recently an issue where GitHub stopped sending us jobs for like 20 hours or so there's still a bunch queued. But it displays metrics that people have cared a lot about in terms of Premerge in the past, so things like queue times and run times. Also probably going to look at doing things like failure percentages, because if we end up running into too high of a failure percentage, I mean, it's probably an infrastructure issue. And then also, I mean, potentially looking at like failures on main. And then the other thing is that metrics are coupled with alerting. So like if queue times suddenly start exploding or there's like some other infrastructure issue that the alerting is set up to catch, someone will get notified, I mean, during working hours, and we'll be able to work on investigating that. So a couple other improvements. So most of these have actually impacted like both the new Premerge system and the old Premerge system, since they're pretty much running the same shell scripts. So the Premerge system has this somewhat complicated job computation script where we're trying to figure out what projects we want to test based on what files were changed. So it's not, it's sort of you're sort of just testing the project that you touched and then all of its dependents. There's a couple caveats due to timing, build and test time related issues, but that's mostly what it does. So that got rewritten recently. It was originally a shell script that was really hard to reason about. So it's unit tested and a lot nicer. There's been quite a few other miscellaneous improvements around that within the shell scripts and around it and whatnot. So a couple things that we're exploring. So improving node and container setup times with the new infrastructure. So if you have a Windows node that needs to spin up because you're starting another workflow with the auto scaling, you end up with a 15-minute delay or so. So we're looking into improving that, because it really only matters during off-peak times when you actually need to spin up a node to start your workflow. But it's something that, faster is better. So we're also working on reproduction instructions. Something that that's been definitely a pain point in the past is being able to reproduce Premerge failures locally so you can actually debug them. So since everything runs in containers, it should be, we can write very accurate instructions that should be reproducible across most machines on how exactly to reproduce those issues. So that's something that's planned. And then hopefully a faster toolchain on Windows to get the Windows Premerge check latency down a little bit, especially when the compiler cache isn't super warm. Yeah, so for launching it, so they're both running right now. So they're technically both running. So launching in this sense essentially means making the new system authoritative. So instead of just ignoring all of the failures, we're actually reporting them as failed to GitHub, and they're showing up as failures rather than just passing with an annotation. And then also turning down the old pre-submit infrastructure at the same time. And then so there's also a discussion to be had around Premerge latency versus test coverage. So this is the thing that's come up somewhat recently, as people have been adding projects and it's been causing queue times, and there's been trade-offs that we've been making regarding this. So more test coverage is always great, but there's a cost there in terms of latency increase on the Premerge jobs. So in this case, Google intends to deliver a high reliability and high performance system, but we want to leave the trade-offs in terms of Premerge latency versus exhaustiveness of testing ultimately to the community. So in the way we've been dealing with it currently is, people are just essentially proposing PRs, and then most things everyone's been able to agree on what to do within the PR. And then if things end up becoming contentious, we want to defer coverage decision to the LLVM governance. So in that case, that would be the infrastructure area leads. So in terms of people who've worked on it, so Caroline, Guillaume, Lucille, and Nathan have all contributed pretty significantly to this within Google. And then David Spickett and Tom Stellard on the open source side have been very helpful in reviewing a lot of patches and whatnot. There's definitely plenty of other people on the open source side, that I've forgotten to mention here. Definitely, cool to see more community involvement here, and hoping we can continue pushing this until it's something that's reasonably effective for everybody who works on LLVM. So no questions, but thank you.